Good evening, everyone. On behalf of IITM Research Path, I take immense pleasure in welcoming our panelists. First off, we have Professor Karthik Atmanathan, formerly Senior VP at Ashok Leyland and a Professor of Practice at IITM Madras. He is a fellow with the Principal Scientific Advisor's Office and contributed to developing pioneering charging standards for Indian e-two-wheelers and e-buses. Professor Kannan Lakshmi Narayanan, who is currently leading a team at IITM Madras and designing and developing high-efficiency traction motors for electric vehicles. He is the founder and director of Fractal Foundation, a one-of-a-kind ideas accelerator focused on bringing new technologies to the market, including microspin and Skillvery. Next off, we have Shyam Kumar, who is an automobile industry sales and marketing veteran with more than 36 years experience in the field. At Toyota, he was responsible for driving institutional business for more than a decade and responsible for setting up the building blocks of Toyota Kinto. Currently, he is supporting the HashTech program at IITM Research Park under the leadership of Professor Ashok Jhunjhunwala. Finally, we have our very own professor, a man who needs no introduction. Over to you, Professor.
Thank you. We are talking about the future of urban mobility. In congested cities, we are not talking about nationwide. We have made it a green transport solution is what we are looking for. I will like each of the panelists to take 5 minutes and talk about what is possible. Not necessarily on HashTech. HashTech is what I presented. Of course, they can talk also on HashTech, but anything else. I'll start with Karthik.
Good afternoon, everyone. Well, I don't think I'll talk about what's possible. I'll talk about what is difficult so that we can look at what's possible. I think in most cases, we've gotten used to appreciating and implementing solutions which are not India-centric. So I think our biggest weakness, as most of us know, is enforcement. Unless it's a criminal abuse, you don't see the officials or the police interfering in enforcement of the rules. So this is, and I'd like to believe that that's how we will be. And we need systems which are going to build around this, right? So I think this is one area where we are seeing consistent failures. I mean, if there is a lake or if there's a forest area, we don't respect the boundary unless somebody constructs a wall. Now, is that okay, not okay is not the problem. That's the reality. And I think we need to start designing solutions which are going to respect these social behaviors. We'll have far more sustainable things. Second one, I think from my experience, the finance sector seems to be always sleeping for the first few years of strategizing. And then suddenly they wake up and then they bring the norms which nobody knew earlier. So I think even in HashTech, if you look at, if we are the Alliance for Green Build, if we have the debt providers also engaged right up front, most solutions tend to be better implemented. This we do in business regularly, I'm sure you know. So when we conceive a business and the business plan is prepared, we bring the bankers in right at the beginning so that they know the nuances and they understand the risks. Otherwise, it seems to take much longer for them to actually understand what's happening and work on it. From my experience, I've seen in the urban mobility context, these two have been the biggest deals. Enforcement and the banking guys, the people who provide debt, not equity investment. I'm talking about debt exposure. So we need to start looking at this part of the urban mobility when we design new solutions or when we start implementing solutions. It needs to be in the context of that specific geography, and it's not about just the roots and the mathematics there or the practices that are happening. There's a social culture which is present there, and that needs to be built into the entire solution. So I think I'll leave it there.
When I think of this HashTech, sort of two parallels come to my mind. One is a decision that was taken at some point that every panchayat headquarter would have a high-speed data line. And then there is this Gram Sadak Yojana, where every panchayat headquarters is linked to the nearest highway by a dedicated road. I think these did a lot to catalyze the connectivity, facilitating movement of goods, people, as well as information. And I was reflecting how this same concept could be extended so that even if you don't entirely prevent rural to urban migration, at least the sprawl, urban sprawl can be more extended and people can live in more conducive environments without having the hassle of, without facing hassles in moving to the center of the city for work and business. So that I think would be a logical extension of the thought that has gone behind hashtag.
Yeah, good evening everyone. Thank you Karthik sir and Kannan sir for that feedback. As a matter of fact, it was about 2 months back that Professor got me into this whole program, and I just want to share with you some very interesting things. So at the outset, initially I was thinking what's so great about, I saw something very transformative. But what hit me is something that I want to share with you in terms of 4 data points. The biggest question that actually came to me was, what's the need for something so transformative? And I'll share with you 4 data points which really shocked me. Point number 1, when we were going through the whole thing, today in the urban areas, the vehicle population is 101 million vehicles, personal vehicles. By 2047, hats off to Professor, he's got everything on the 100-year of India's independence. It's going to be 350 million. That means a vehicle growth of 3.5 times. Data point number 1. Data point number 2. Do you know the average peak speed at which we move in an urban center during the peak hours? Any guesses? 17 to 20 kilometers per hour. Imagine, now let's fast forward to 2047. 350 million vehicles. God save all of us. What are we doing? What are we going to do? Point 3. And the result of that today, of these 2 data points today. The average time spent in traffic productivity loss is 51.4%. That means on an average in India's urban centers, if you travel for an hour, 51% is a time productive loss. It's staggering. Now, hats off to everyone. None of the world's policymakers or India's policymakers are sitting quiet. Everybody's working out solutions. But there's a fundamental question. If these data points are right, the next question is, if you want to, metros are coming in, an amazing thing happening around us. We're trying to put more vehicles onto the road. And here comes the 4th data point. There's something called volume to capacity. The volume of vehicles that can be accommodated to the capacity of the roads, ideally should be at about 1. Do you know what it's the national average today? 2.8. And in a city like Bangalore, it's 3.5. We're dead. We're sitting dead ducks. And these 4 points, data points, once I saw it, I told, sir, hats off to you. We salute you for this transformative thinking, and it is amazing. It is something amazing, and I thought I must share this to you. And amazing conceptual thinking that has been done. We've got a lot of work to do. And the last point that I have is, it's not the technology that will be the problem in solving. The whole issue will be trying to bring various stakeholders to the table to be able to roll this forward. Thank you. That's from my side.
Thank you. Let me start with the last comment and make a small statement, and then bringing stakeholder to come to said something like this. I remember telling you a little story. I came to IIT Madras. I came from US and joined IIT Madras in 1981 as a faculty. My parents used to live in Calcutta, so therefore to stay in touch with them, I wanted a telephone. It took me 8 years to get a telephone. And took us, burnt me inside. Why should, in the middle of a city, and third largest city in the country, why should it take 8 years? And what's the solution? It took me some time to figure out the primary reason is the telephone does not make a business sense. Telephone used to cost 40,000 rupees per line. If you take depreciation and interest rate plus operation cost, it needed a 1,200 rupees per month income for it to break even. My total salary was 1,200 rupees. No way people like me could be afforded telephone. But yet I was in the top 5% of the country's income bracket. So telephone was given like a quota, highly subsidized, and you had an 8-year waiting list. We figured out that the only way we can solve this problem if we can reduce the cost drastically from 40,000 rupees per line to 10,000 rupees per line. We said with that, in about 10-12 years, we will start getting 100 million telephone. We started looking at every aspect of a telephone line, and we found that the local loop, the copper local loop from the exchange to the home, when a copper wire is buried underground and brought to it, that was the primarily liter cost by 1993-94. That was costing 25,000, and that was not going to go down because copper cost was not going to go down, digging cost was not going down. Other costs which were high at one time, for example, exchange cost, which was 10,000 rupees per line, had already gone down to 1,000 rupees per line. So primary was local loop. We came up with the idea of wireless local loop. Can we put wireless telephony? And we said, well, we'll have towers every few kilometers, maybe in the rooftop, we'll get fiber to those towers, and then we will have wireless telephony. And the comment that I got, I don't think policymakers will ever allow that. Whether technologically it is feasible or not was another issue. Policymakers. I have one belief. When somehow you come with the best possible solution in a given situation, there will be ups and downs. Policymakers will try to stop it. But finally, when the right time comes, and if it is the right solution, it gets accepted. If a better solution is available, sure, let's accept the better solution. And that's what my question says. What about metros? How can it help us? Can metros solve the problem? Start with metros, public, and metros are already being built. What do you think? Instead of driving in the car as we do often today, will we start going into metro?
Yeah, I guess it's like, should it be hydrogen or battery electric? So I don't think it is the solution, and it's one of the solutions. And it needs to go further. I think most of the metro rail corporations are also working on it, but you've not seen too much. Private enterprise has delivered it with the e-rickshaws in Delhi, etc. So the metro doesn't work and I think even though in Hashtag as well, I think in the Indian context, expecting a very well-dressed person going to office, expecting him to walk more than 50-80 meters is not sustainable. It's not a scalable model. Monsoons, absolutely no pathways, and when pathways are built, lack of enforcement, you lose it within 2 years. So we don't have that in our DNA. We do not respect all that, and we do not treat the user of the pavement as an important person in the population, right? So But the e-rickshaw, I think, is a superb solution for this attitude that we have. And I'm not here to preach to 1.4 billion people, right? So you better find a solution that works for them rather than trying to, reform them. Once in a while, Gandhijis happen, but they don't happen too often. So you need to have some solution which works. I think the metro works with a good last mile solution. And it addresses a certain section of the population, depending on how many routes you've been having. So, but beyond a point, I've seen it in London. You start planning 130 minutes and keep switching tubes, not because of convenience or time, but because of the cost. You've bought a good deal and you don't want to lose that, and so you start managing it for the sake of the money. So I think metro is one you will still need in the Indian context. You'll still need the buses. And somehow I feel very uncomfortable when 500 people in a populated country with a lot of poor people, when they are taken in a driverless vehicle. I think something is wrong with us. I think we should pay a little bit more as higher earners so that those people can take home about 200 rupees per day. This is a personal opinion, but I think we need e-rickshaw guys. We need bus drivers. You need share taxi. It needs to be solved better, implemented better. But we need that kind of approach where you're able to pass a certain percentage of wealth effectively down the line, not through grants or donations, but through economic activity. And you compromise because of that for the sake of overall society. It helps with economic growth. So anyway, so we come back, that's a different part. But I think in the urban solution, metros have a role in most cases, but they need to come with that last mile solution. And I would love it if it is a private enterprise solution like e-rickshaws in Delhi, rather than something conceived by the government and goofed up within 3 years by the officials. Right? So we should allow private enterprise to happen. I think metros will contribute to a great extent. I'm not saying remove the metros, but I think metros are inherently on a per person basis very expensive. Mainly because the infrastructure, rail as well as the station, is very expensive. And because it requires a lot of land acquisition and is expensive, the network kind of thing is, you'll have some leading lines. It's like having a few highways in the city. But there will be a significant distance that people will have to travel before they come to the nearest metro station. So it cannot have a spread that is as wide as a more differently conceived solution. And finally, since we are just at on the topic of comparing a metro with whatever else is possible, the fact that a metro can carry maybe 1,000 passengers means its frequency cannot be sooner than when 1,000 people need to travel. So that would entail a 10 or 15-minute waiting period in peak hours, and at other times a larger waiting period. Otherwise, you'll have partially occupied trains, which is not economically viable. So, strictly in an arithmetic sense, if the number of passengers in the vehicle is fewer, you can have more frequency. So, in that sense, also having a two-seater metro appeals, because I can have one every few seconds rather than wait for 500 or 1,000 people to accumulate. So, this is just a head-to-head comparison.
Yeah, Kannan sir, I have a slightly divergent view. I personally believe that many things will coexist. Metro will possibly play its own role. Okay. But the essential thing that would always emerge in life is, I think, what Professor was saying, that better things work out. If you take a metro to be more specific, I mean, if you try to evaluate a metro, it has its own huge positives. But what about your go-to-market? What about your cost involved? Is there a better form that you can come out with? how do you handle these data points that we discussed in terms of super challenges that you're going to see as population grows? So I think Metro will play its own role. Possibly, if there is a better solution, I don't know. I'm not saying hashtag. Anything of that kind, the better ones will dominate and Metro will find its own place in addition to the other modes of transport. And that's my view.
Yeah, I think metros are a great solution for longer distance and large transport. It can coexist. But first of all, metro is not within 300 to 400 meters. Now, I see Karthik talking about 80 meters. I know 300 meters is a stretch, but I think it's a question of people getting used to it. If rather than traveling 1 hour, will they be willing to walk 3 to 4 minutes? I think it's very much possible. A large percentage, there will be a few who will not. Let them drive in a car, let them take longer time. Hopefully the number of cars on the road will go down, and with something like hashtag, that will kind of help. So the key thing is your station within 300 to 400 meters, because there is a 700 meter by 700 meter grid or something in which you have 2 stations at every, so you have 4 corners and 8 stations nearby. I think that's the key part that we talked about in hashtag. But also it's a very personalized vehicle. That is what may matter a lot. I mean, very often the metro gets very congested and you are standing, and those are things that makes a certain section of people not wanting to go into that. Hashtag has overcome problem like this. For a vehicle like this, 2-seater, autonomous doesn't mean much because they are traveling on rails. They are not traveling on anything. The pre-planned route, it's easy to kind of figure out where do they need to go. My next question, what are can be the other solution? Let's say we don't have, forget about hashtag. Metros, buses, of course e-rickshaw for short distance. But again, I don't know who is willing to or not willing to travel on e-rickshaw. The cars, what are the other solutions? Do you want to reflect upon it? And after that, we'll open it.
Prof, I am from the private sector. I'm paid to find out. I'm paid to find out problems. I don't get paid for providing solutions. So if you, no, just light away. But I think hashtag is something which is that kind of concept, not necessarily exactly what it is. It's approaching that kind of solution, right? Where you're solving a multiple thing. And honestly, let's be clear. As engineers, we are very arrogant. Nothing solves problems like technology. So there's nothing else which ever solves, not scale, not finance. Technology solves problems. And that's why you have so many of us coming out of colleges. But the point is, if you look at hashtag, right, probably we'll need to see the impact on degradation of real estate value because of the second floor rail going through the street. Now that's, we don't live in noise polluted, noise insulated houses here. So obviously that street is gone in terms of market value for the noise levels, etc. And especially if it's such a high traffic. Now, is that a cost which is worth incurring is what we need to see. We can't talk about, no, it's gone. So you need to try and monetize all these as much as possible. But I'm sorry, I'm not able to think of solutions, but I'm very good at identifying problems.
You're not wired that way. Well, my ideal world is one where people don't have to migrate into very cramped cities and can, I'm not even saying live in remote villages, but let us say 10 kilometers beyond Tambaram, the working and living environment is much better than in the heart of the city. And if they need to come maybe a couple of times a week, but most of the other time they should be able to live and work and earn well out of that. So a more geographic dispersion of the hashtag kind of solution is what is closer to my heart.
Want to add something, Shyam?
I don't want to add further to problems. I'm not so good at solutions, so I think I'll let it rest there.
I think we'll open it up now for yes, sir. Start with, yeah, go ahead. Stand up so that a mic can reach you. Huh? If there are more mics, maybe 1 or 2 mics can be taken from here.
So good evening, sir. I would like to put forward my 2 cents. First, I will begin with hashtag. I think it is a wonderful solution for the cities which have not been developed yet. So maybe it can be a good solution for a city like the Line in Saudi Arabia or Third Mumbai in India itself. Maybe it is a very good solution for not developed cities yet. However, for developed cities, I think for the last mile solution, we already have new solutions coming up with locked e-bicycles and e-cycles, which are available from wherever you want to pick up. You can just put in the code or OTP and then pick it up and then go to the destination you want and just leave it over there. So I think this is the current solution that is coming as of now. Maybe we can replace them with the AC pods also.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Yeah, the next, whoever has the mic.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
The putting the track is the major challenge, in hashtag. So it is like the copper wire of the 1940 telephone system. So the wireless version is to fly these vehicles. So that's what I would think would be a better solution. I think creating tracks, the grid that you have shown is very, very impractical, I think.
Okay, we'll talk about it. Next question. We'll take 3-4 questions.
Sir, actually, many countries which are following a 4-day work-life culture. So it also increases the productivity. So that could be one of the solution. And then regarding the hashtag, so is it possible to implement hashtag infrastructure in a place where metro is implemented? Because even though it should, the metro will be intercepting the place. The hashtag is about 6 to 9 meter in height. So whether it is possible. So coming to my second point, so you told that multiple platoons will be traveling together when to join together for air resistance. So if the first platoon, so the first cabin, so which has a destination at a particular point, and the second cabin which has to, then whether the second cabin have to wait until the person in the first cabin gets down. So can you please?
I think many of these answers, you should see the demo. There are ways by which one vehicle will move in this direction, exit, others will continue the platoon. We can handle that. But more important question was whether it is possible to build it in the city. That's the first question that we really asked. We put a bunch of civil engineers to work on something like this. Whether it is possible, what will be the disturbance? We are talking about very light vehicle, first of all. We are talking about not one of the biggest problem. Metro is a very heavy vehicle. Here we are talking about very light vehicle, and so therefore the load is very small. Even with number of them going, it is not really very, very large. So we are talking about fairly thin poles. We are talking about almost 35 centimeter poles being put. If the poles are being put in the center of road, and we are talking about small roads, center of the side of the road, small road, then rest of the construction becomes very, very simple. Far, far less hassle than the way metro is getting done. All at the height, second floor and fourth floor, third floor, second floor and 2 floor and 2.5 floor kind of height is going to be built. At least the way we have looked at it, it is possible to build in existing cities. That was the most important thing. And it won't the main road is not important. It is, if you are familiar with our research park, if you see Kanagam Road, which is a very thin road, that's the place this will become an important road. The most important thing is, in a road, there are wide road where vehicles can move fast, a lot of carrying capacity. There are small roads where vehicle finds obstacles, and then there are vehicles are parked which further blocks it. When we are putting a solution, the small roads become important. A noise pollution, we'll have to certainly work on it. There should not be any noise pollution. I think we'll stop here. We'll give you back the question. Maybe first those who are others, and then we will give back.
Due respects, Professor, I know you have, over the last 3 decades, you have pioneered a lot of innovative concepts. So this is one more. So I have not seen the demo. But I don't know how people would get up into this. What's the cost dimension of this? Whether it's going to be cheaper than the metro, and how will people go in and come out of it? Will an old person get into this hashtag? I'm 80 years old. Will I be able to get into a hashtag? I think I can still get into a metro, but I'm not sure I can get into a hashtag. And so these are some of the things that just cross my mind. I don't know beyond this.
I think these are answerable questions. We have certainly taken into account that an old person, I'm getting very old, already crossed 70, will be in time 80. I hope to travel in something like that. So certainly we'll do this very comfortably. We'll discuss this maybe offline. And when you see the demo, you will get a clearer picture. It's like an auto. If I can get in auto, I can get into this. I'll have to walk, of course, 200-300 meters, 400 meters. If I can't walk 300-400 meters, it is not the best solution.
Professor, one question.
I think, yes.
One question.
Why cycling and cycle lanes is not taking off? And this e-cycles is also not a success, mostly because of the lanes. And of course, a lot of cars will be reduced if lanes are implemented.
More road space.
Yes.
And giving out, I am all for it. Number two, of course, cycle. The only problem comes in cycle that once it goes above 2-3 kilometers, many people cannot cycle. Number two, our heat, etc., is not something that we should. I mean, I used to cycle for a long time in IIT, where the heat is much less. But let me tell you that it was not pleasant to cycle after 10 o'clock in the day, even 1.5 kilometers, in about 5 months in a year. I used to therefore try to get to the office by 8 a.m. Once it goes beyond 10 a.m., it was not so
I think
easy.
the context is we forget we are in a tropical zone. So forget about India. Show me places where cycling has succeeded in a tropical zone.
Tropical zone.
It hasn't.
And
it's
then,
not a relevant solution.
And then a rains is another very, very big problem. So anyway, I think yourself.
Sir, most of the times the companies, the organizations are not, I am talking actually.
Yeah.
The organizations or the establishments are not incentivizing sustainable transport. We are talking about increasing the supply, that creating more infrastructure, but we are not addressing to make people sustainable by
so we know the problems, we should come up with solutions.
Yeah.
The one other possibility I'm thinking is integrate the metro with hashtag. Let hashtag feed into the metro.
Yeah, of course, all these things will happen. For real long distance travel, one should use metro. But if one wants to travel 10, 12 kilometers, one should. See, metros also take a long time. That's another thing, because every kilometer or so it stops. Every stoppage adds about 2 minutes of a travel time in a metro. You must understand. If you are between your current place and this thing, there is a 10 stops, it adds 20 minutes. That's another issue, that because it has to slow down, then stop for about a minute and then restart.
Yeah, I'm even thinking that.
Anyway, I think we will.
This coach will just go into the.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
I think yes. Next person. Yes. We can't back and forth.
Sir, can hydrogen be the driving fuel for these hashtags?
Well, will hydrogen make us fly? And I think the other important thing about, you should calculate the energy. If it, there are people who are talking about flying. Maybe others should talk.
One suggestion here, actually, like can we have this hashtag used for emergency services like ambulance kind of a thing, like, because it becomes sometimes it is very difficult.
I have a one.
Please complete. Kindly complete.
So the question is, can hashtag be used for emergency vehicle like ambulance or such vehicles? So.
Yeah, see, an attempt to answer that is, today you can see ambulances get stuck on the road. So maybe there are times that this serves that purpose. I mean, these are things that can evolve, and we'll have to see how it moves. Yeah.
Somebody may have to carry the person up to the nearest place, and then 20 minutes, 12 minutes should take you anywhere. Designing a ambulance kind of thing is possible.
So the point that I would like to reinforce is that I strongly believe that it's going to be multiple modes of transport. But if you have larger issues that I was trying to bring forth, then don't we need a solution that takes care of that? So this does hashtag address that, and that's what we need to work towards. So
if we can get 50% of the cars off road, I think ambulance can also move faster. There's things which you should. I think what can get the cars off the road, and maybe two-wheelers off the road. A certain percentage of two-wheelers and cars off the road. I think that's a key thing. Now, we have taken into all cost into account, and our computation was 20 rupees for a 15-kilometer ride, so which is a very, very inexpensive.
Professor, I think one possible solution could be that we have so many electric poles in India, like kind of a grid structure itself. So why not like a ropeway next to the poles?
So can I answer? So the conception is electric pole is not strong enough to carry something like that. So we'll have to replace that. But if we put this, can all the services also be on the same poles? Yes. Electrical wires will be on the same poles. We can probably carry some pipes on the same pole, same thing. We can carry certainly lights on the same thing. We can carry other things like
data cables can go.
Data cable, communication cables, all should be, we should remove all other cables. So the objective is to be able to do that, because we are going to put it pretty much on all streets. But today's poles will not be, they are not strong enough. This has to be designed to be strong enough.
Got it.
But we have done calculation. That what we need is a pillar which is only about 35 centimeter wide. We are talking about putting it inside, and after that it's easy to put the rails.
Good evening. This is Srivatsan from Nidec Corporation. We are manufacturer of the largest motors in the world actually. So our company has recently invested in this urban mobility concept for the drones, where two people can fly on a short distance of 20 minutes or so. I think maybe this also can be one of the options for the future. As part
I think you should work with us on hashtag drones. Let's look at the energy requirement. If you are going to, as in the morning I said, therefore energy requirement is going to go up and up and up, we are dead. For carrying emergency medicine, for carrying some goods, drones may be okay, but carrying people, I think we are moving towards a situation which will make things much, much worse.
Professor, actually by seeing the hashtag, I remember the roller coaster from here. Yeah, but the thing is that if like cell phone towers, we are giving, somebody will take rent and they will establish in their building cell phone tower. That's like same poles. Why can't we go for like that option?
Yeah, as I told you, the existing poles are not strong enough.
No, we take the daba. So here they're daba for rent.
But those, Anyway, I think we can discuss that separately.
Yeah. So how do you, so this side?
So that's it. That's it on the right.
Yeah. So how are you ensuring these are comfortable and safe So
we have to ensure that.
Yeah, and
they're very comfortable, very safe. We have to make it.
And will it not make the city more clumsier by putting?
I think we have to get architect to design it such that this will become a fancy item rather than this thing. I think I will stop here. We are almost running out of time. Maybe ask each of my panelists to maybe add a few words, and then anyway we have dinner, and we can discuss that. Maybe the panelists, can you want to just summarize whatever your comments are?
Yeah, I guess we've got a combination of solutions and probably a pilot. I was head of the bus business and the e-mobility business at Ashok Leyland. There was one concept where we could flash charge buses in the bus stops. Europe is trying it out at a pilot scale. We checked out and it made a lot of money sense, phenomenal environment sense, blah, blah, and still we dropped it because it involved 5 bureaucrats collaborating across 3 governments, city, state, and center. I've not come across too many successful stories in India on that. We do not have such success stories with government officials. I'm with Mr. Narayan Murthy there. I think our biggest hurdle is our own official systems and the staffing, the way we staff them. So even in Hashtag, we would have very similar challenges. There would be multiple departments from multiple governments, probably with opposing parties, who need to have the maturity to sit down and work in the good of the public. Not very common. And I think that the money part and the real estate part that I was talking about, because you will lose value. You will lose real estate value along those corridors. So we need to see how best to manage it. And as a product designer, I can tell you that safety is not something you question. It's hygiene, right? So in all probability, the system will get rated for gale forces up to 45 kilometers per hour. And if the wind speed goes beyond that, the operator of the system will shut it down because it's not designed for that. And as a product designer, I can tell you that we can make it look as sexy as you want it. So,
yeah, I think an idea which is as novel and therefore unproven. Only thing that will surprise me is if we implement it and don't find any challenges. So we should just go ahead and implement. We should do a pilot. Have an open mind. There will be lots of issues that we didn't anticipate. There's only so much we can, through pure thought, anticipate. There will be issues which we should fix, but we should move fast and not break things.
Yeah, my point is finally this, that here's something very interesting. And as we move forward, do our pilots, I'm sure it'll morph into multiple modules will come out of it. And let's see how all this works hand in hand. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I want to wind this up with a couple of statements. If there is a better solution, we'll certainly like to look at it. But so far, I have not heard any better solution. And the solution that Kannan talked about, maybe we should move out of these congested cities. The only problem is that jobs are in congested cities. And ordinary people cannot move out. That's a problem. Can we redesign? But I don't see thinking even moving in that direction. A bigger problem after technology is the 5 bureaucrats or 4 bureaucrats that he talked about. I have faced it often. When we proposed wireless solution, it was just taken from one place to another. The bigger question that was asked, is it being done anywhere else in the world? If it is not being done anywhere else in the world, how can you be the first person? I remember the only time I went up from IIT Madras in last 33 years, last 40 years now. Yeah, 43 years. 43 years I've been at IIT Madras. I spent 20 months as a principal advisor to Piyush Goyal. And I was with Ministry of Power and MNRE, and I was given to bring in the electric vehicles. And we proposed battery swapping. And the question that was asked, Has it been done anywhere else? And if it has not been done anywhere else, how can India be the first one to try it? So I think that will be a more difficult question. But the only, as Kannan points out, the only way is to actually implement it. And I'm sure there will be technical challenge, there will be safety challenges, there will be various challenges, but we'll solve those problems. If a better solution comes, it is certainly something that we can look at. We have spent considerable time thinking on it, though it has been built only last few months, but almost a couple of years, it has been in the mind that how do you really create a congestion problem? And I welcome bicycles. I think that's a very good complement to something like this. And of course, the metros, to the extent that they exist, they can be there. But I really believe that we need to find solution to dense urban mobility, because it is unlikely in the next 25, 50 years, before climate change can kill us, that we will come with a situation where we really have a very distributed production and work life. Unfortunately, that's not so, and therefore we'll have to keep on getting more people in Chennai, Bangalore. Bangalore is a bigger example. I mean, we have seen in our own lifetime the way it has got congested. So I think that's all. Thank you very much. Come for dinner. We'll have plenty of time to discuss various things. But equally important, if you get some time, just quick walk. Volunteers will be there. They can take you downstairs, show you, bring you back. Thank you.